What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Desai Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts, Norman Desai, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Desai Guys, Mr. Tad Desai. And Tad, back on the YouTube, we're discussing some more draft talk. I know you sort of don't want it to let it go away, so
No,
we still have some stuff to
we're gonna
discuss.
we are gonna discuss this into August. This is never going away.
Yeah, August may be a little bit late for that,
No, it's
so I
not.
don't
It's
know.
never too late. It's
We're
like
not gonna
Christmas in July. It's great.
We're not going to go into August, but yeah, we're trying to, sort of discuss sort of the fallout. The things have settled now that the draft is over. Players have landed with their respective teams. And hey, this affects your fantasy draft. So definitely we want to get into it with this week's episode here. We're going to discuss, who landed in some good situations, who landed in some bad situations. And of course, we have some sleeper picks as well. But Ted, let's start this off really quickly. Just are you a Kentucky Derby guy?
Kind of. It's always one of those things that I want to get into, but I can never really. It's always one of those things that like the week of I'm into, but I needed to do more research prior. And it was funny because my mom called me last Friday. I got back from a 3-hour tutoring session, and my mom was like, "I'm going to a party tomorrow. I need your help setting up my betting account." So I literally spent like an hour with my mom on the phone helping her set up a betting account, only for a guy with 80 to 1 odds to win the entire thing. And it was I'm happy because I actually placed a bet on Epicenter. Is it Epicenter or Epicenter?
Sure, be Epicenter, I believe.
Okay, I don't know. I'm nervous with names now, but I placed him with the top two finish. So I actually won some money, but like all that work just for this underdog, I had nowhere to win. Like it was again, I'm kind of a Kentucky Derby guy, but like that is one of the crazier finishes I've ever seen.
Yeah, in case you missed it, the Kentucky Derby ran on Sunday afternoon, and Rich Strike, who had a 80 to 1
Great
odds
name,
to
by the way.
win.
Fantastic name.
And yeah, I mean, with that fantastic name, he had a fantastic finish and he won the Kentucky Derby. And just, yeah, I mean, it was just sensational. I think, if you placed a bet on him, you probably got yourself a pretty good payday. Even if you bet something small, like, a lot of people are not super into Kentucky Derby or horse racing in general. It's just like, hey, these sounds like an interesting name. You bet like $20, I'm pretty sure you come away with a pretty good payday there. So, yeah, I mean, just speaking of good paydays, we definitely want to bring up one of our newest sponsors to the show, Bet Online. So, our partners at Bet Online continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA, NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, UFC fights, MMA, the future seasons for the NFL futures, excuse me, and of course the Kentucky Derby that just happened. There would have been a great source for you to place some bets there. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your Vegas casino and poker games. And hey, it's super easy to get started. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use the promo code BELIEVE to receive 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, capital BLEAV. And once again, you get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts.
Yeah,
So
real quick, guys, they're just such a great site, an easy site as well to use. As I placed a couple draft bets there. Unfortunately, I did not place a bet that Trayvon Walker was going to be the first overall pick because I thought the Jags were going to be smart for once. But if you did, you hit that underdog and you won big time. So they are just, it's a very, very good site, very easy to use. So be sure to check them out because, hey, it's like I say with LAFB Network. If they support us, please support them. So please return that favor on our behalf. That would be a favor that we do very much appreciate.
100%, 100%. But yeah, let's definitely get into today's episode, Tad, for sure. As mentioned, we want to discuss some fantasy football topics. Obviously, now with the draft over, we're heading into a little bit of a dry season now before the mini camps and the training camps, obviously, which will happen late in the summer. But hey, it never is too early to start prepping for your fantasy football draft. And yeah, with the draft and real draft completing now, we definitely want to get into some situations that players have landed in, whether they're good, bad, or a potential sleeping giant, which can help your roster once you get to the season. So, Tad, let's start with some of the good picks here. Why don't you get into one of your picks here of a player that landed in a great situation for fantasy football purposes?
I mean, this player landed in a great situation. His quarterback certainly did not. Aaron Rodgers has to be very upset coming out of this draft. I know they took 2 receivers, one in Romeo Dobbs, not a terrible pick, but one, I love this guy. It's Christian Watson. I've been singing his praises since I watched his tape for the Senior Bowl. The wide receiver at North Dakota State was the Packers' first second round pick, if that makes sense. So I think that was an absolute value pick. I was convinced Watson was going to go late first round. I really, frankly, don't understand why he didn't. But I'm not complaining because now my boy Rodgers has a versatile receiver yet again. And we know he loves his versatile receivers. That's why Valdez Scantling is, and I've been saying this all offseason, is so grossly overrated. It's because it's not the fact that he's good. It's just the fact that he's a fast guy that is good on jet sweeps and all that stuff. That's why he looks better than he is. And let's not forget that Rodgers, one of his conditions last offseason when he was like, no, I'm out, was to bring back Randall Cobb. He was like, I want Randall Cobb back because he loves him some, versatile jet sweep slot guys that can kind of do everything. Well, that's why I thought Watson was going to be a first rounder because that is what he excels at the most. So I this might be a hot take, but with Devontae Adams gone, Valdez Scantling gone, who's the other? Equanimous St. Brown. Did I do that right? That first name?
Equanimous St. Brown.
Damn it. I was practicing that one all day. But with all 3 of those guys gone, I honestly think Christian Watson has a shot to be the Packers' number 1 overall receiver. And I know that sounds crazy, but look, I mean, let's look at the evidence of all the other receivers. Sami Watkins hasn't played. This is a crazy stat. He has not played a full season since 2014. Do you want to guess how old I was in 2014?
I don't know, 18?
20.
Okay.
Wait, is that math right? Yeah, that math is right. God, I'm gonna be 28 in like 2 months. Ugh, I hate this. But so yeah, Sammy Watkins hasn't played a full season in almost a decade. Al Lazard had a career best year. He didn't even get past 600 yards. And Amari Rodgers, this was a crazy stat. Only had 8 targets last year, not catches, targets. So I'm not writing him off yet, but that's not looking so good. And I know people were saying the same thing about Amari Rodgers. Is he's a fast guy. But Christian Watson plays different. As he's a little bit more physical, he's a little bit more. Just the feel of his play is different. It's hard to describe in words, but if you watch the tape on Watson, you can just tell that this is a guy that feels right for this offense. So, look, am I saying this is a guy that you could draft in the later rounds that's going to have a top 10 finish? No. But it wouldn't shock me if he finishes a top 20 receiver. It really wouldn't because he also has that rushing ability. So he's going to, again, not saying he's going to be on the level of this guy, but he does have that Debo potential of he gets you those 6 points on a rushing touchdown as well. So don't give me that face. Don't do it. This is why I hate YouTube.
I just hate when it's just like everyone makes these comparisons to Debo, like, they're just going to be the next greatest thing. It's
okay,
just,
so name one other receiver that's great rushing.
well, a lot of people are comparing Treylon Burks to being Tebow Samuel. A lot of people are comparing
that's a stupid comparison, though.
I just feel like, that's where it needs to stop. That needs to stop.
Well, it's not going to stop here because Christian Watson, I'm telling you, if they find themselves at the 5-yard line, they're going to, give it to Watson any chance they get because he is that type of talented runner. So again, am I saying it's going to be a Debo level where, he has as many rushing touchdowns as Nick Chubb and as many receiving touchdowns as, the next great receiver? No. I'm not saying that's what Christian Watson is going to be, but I'm just saying he has that potential to be a double threat there. So honestly, Christian Watson, top 20 receiver, along with Hollywood Brown. Sorry, Ryan Dyrud. I could see it happening. I can see both happening. So Christian Watson's probably one of my favorite rookie sleepers for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where it's just the lack of talent at the wide receiver room for the Green Bay Packers sort of pushes Christian Watson towards the top.
It's the demand. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, if he was with, I don't know, the Ravens or something, I'd be like, maybe. But no, it's Rodgers. He loves to pass it. Like, it's just going to be, the ball has to go to someone. Saying Watkins, like I said, hasn't played a full season in a while. So I think Watkins is going to have a better season than most expect. But at some point, he's probably going to go down.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, just, the consistency with Sammy Watkins just isn't there. He's getting a lot
Right.
older. We could have seen all this potential a lot when he was early in his career, but now that we're not seeing it, I don't expect a lot from him. Like, he'll be a good receiver with Rodgers, but just, yeah, nowhere near like what people may be expecting of him. So Christian Watson gets pushed to the top. Romeo Dubs, I think he's got a good shot too. They got Samari Toure at the
Pretty
seventh
sure it's
round.
Dobbs.
I keep hearing it both ways between Dubs and Romeo Dobbs. So it's
I
like
like Dubs better. That has a better potential for a nickname.
the receiver out of Nevada. That's the guy that we're.
God knows I'm not correcting you on a name.
Obviously, they still have Randall Cobb. They have Alan Lazard, but just what I see from Christian Watson as well, which is why I was so high. If he lasted, long enough that the Niners possibly could have traded up to get him to pair him up with Trey Lance. Just like he's got the speed, he's got the size, he's got the ability to adjust his routes, play the 50-50 balls. Like, I mean, this is a guy that's going to develop well in Green Bay, even after Aaron Rodgers is gone. Like, I mean, he definitely has the skills to develop into a top flight receiver in the league. So, yeah, out of all the options there, he's going to push himself to the top because of his ability and also because of the demand there.
He'll develop well unless Jordan Love's his quarterback.
Oh, that will be fun to see. That will be fun to see. I'm gonna get into my
send
guy
all your
here.
hate mail to Desai23 on Twitter.
I think everybody knows your love affair, so they're not even buying that joke with Aaron Rodgers. So nice try.
My love
I'm
affair with Aaron Rodgers is strong, baby.
I'm going to get into my pick here, and it's Kenneth Walker III, the running back out of Michigan State, who was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in the second round. And you think about this pick, and it's like, okay, Seattle Seahawks, they have Chris Carson. So why would they go with Kenneth Walker? Well, Chris Carson has been consistent. I'll give you that. But the problem is he's struggled to stay healthy. You have to look at last season alone. He played in a total of 4 games, missed the rest of them with a nick injury. He went onto the IR. There's no guarantee that he's going to be able to start the season this year. And even besides that, like, I mean, I know he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons, but he still has never played a full season yet. Like, I mean, he's always, gimpy a little bit here and there. It's just like, yeah, I think they need a more consistent option. So, okay, here comes Rashad Penny, who they drafted in the first round back in 2017, if I remember correctly.
Drafted in Dallas. My dad looked at me and was like, "Who is that guy?" I'm like, "I don't know."
The running back out of San Diego State, and he never looked like the first round running back that I think the Seattle Seahawks were hoping, and I bet you a lot of other people were hoping that he would be, especially for fantasy purposes. Well, he finally showed a glimmer of hope towards the end of last season. In the final 6 games of the season, he totaled 102 carries with 706 rushing yards with 6 rushing touchdowns. Now, I will add the caveat that he played some weaker opponents. When he played the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams during that 6-game stretch, he totaled 70 yards combined. So he was getting his numbers stacked against teams like Jacksonville, Detroit, Arizona. So, I mean, yeah, okay, that's still impressive that you put those numbers up, but against weaker defensive front. So, anyways, regardless, though, Rashad Penny, also a victim of the injury bug. He had an Achilles injury at the end of 2019 that kept him out pretty much all of the 2020 season. And then, yes, he had to sort of fill in a role once Chris Carson got hurt. They also used a semblance of DJ Dallas and Travis Homer and a bunch of other guys. So pretty much they took Kenneth Walker because they knew this guy can stay healthy and also he's a productive running back. So for me, I'm not saying he's going to come in and win the starting job outright. I think he definitely has the skills to do that. But I think the way Seattle likes to operate, they still like to go with the multi-man approach. And so I think he'll be part of the rotation for sure. But I think it's very similar to my thoughts on Joante Williams last year. He's going to get eased in more. The coaching staff's going to realize, like, oh, this is the guy that needs to get more carries. Let's give him more carries. And like I said, based on the past history with the other 2 running backs that I've mentioned here, Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, they have a history with the injury bug too. So it's like I wouldn't be surprised if they unfortunately miss a couple games here or there. And Kenneth Walker is going to be able to take advantage of that and really showcase his skills and become the primary running back in this backfield. And I think we can see now with the question marks at quarterback, whether it's Drew Lock, whether it's Geno Smith, whether they decide to trade for Baker Mayfield, whether they decide to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know what they're going to do. But regardless, it is a question mark as of right now.
They're not getting Jimmy Garoppolo. Get out of here.
I don't care what it is, but regardless,
way,
there's a question
try
mark
saying
at
getting Jimmy
position.
Garoppolo 10 times fast. That was a tough one right there. there.
It's a question mark at the quarterback position, so you need to rely on what's probably that facet of the strongest facet of your offense, which is the running game. And that's where I think Kenneth Walker, the third here, he will be an instant change to this offense. He'll bring them some sort of consistency. And so, yeah, maybe it'll be a little bit surprising that he's added to a crowded backfield there, but it's going to clear out a lot faster than a lot of people think. So he's definitely worthy of a roster spot on your fantasy roster this coming season.
So I think we might approach this a little differently, because the way I approached my list was guys you can add immediately, like guys that are worth drafting, that you that will contribute pretty soon. Kenneth Walker's not that guy, because I do think you nailed it here. Once they see how good he is, they're like, oh, should we give him the ball more? And it's like, yeah, you should have been doing that all season, which is exactly what happened to Rashad Penny last year, is because people forget this. Rashad Penny was a borderline late candidate for fantasy MVP last year, because like the break he had once Chris Carson went down, everyone was like, this is the Rashad Penny we've been waiting for. I remember I was trying to trade for him like crazy, and the guy was like, hell no, I'm not. Like I held on to this guy all season. So here's how I view Walker, especially because I love Walker as a player. I don't love the situation he stepped into, because, like you said, you got Travis Homer, DJ Dallas. They're going to steal away his receptions. Then you have Rashad Penny. I think he's going to kind of vulture enough carries away to keep him from being super fantasy relevant. So I think it's just going to be a question of when is that breakout game for Kenneth Walker. I'm not sure if it's even going to happen his rookie year, because you also have to remember that offensive line with Seattle, it's kind of shit. I know they drafted Charles Cross, but you still need to build up a lot of that offensive line. They could get rid of DK Metcalf as well. I'm not a huge believer, because, I mean, what are they going to do? It was like, oh, watch Drew Lock on this play fake. It's like, just really? Like, are you really scared of Drew Lock in a play action here? So I'm worried about his possibility for production right now. Now, you ask me next year, depending on what Seattle does in the offseason, then I might be on board with you. But for now, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's one of those guys where if like you're really hurting for running back depth, I'm fine with him being your, second to last or last round pick.
That's fair. I guess for me, like I said, I envision this very much like the Javonte Williams situation in Denver last year, where it was Melvin Gordon, and then we saw more Javonte Williams. They recognized that this guy has more talent. They started to split the shares a lot more. We had the breakout game against Kansas City, I believe, Sunday Night Football, and so that's when people realized
like
that it's like,
or whatever,
yeah, and then that's when people realized I was like, okay, this is the future of Denver's running attack right now. And I see that very similar thing happening with Kenneth Walker. And I want to bring up just one quick point here. I know Seattle's offensive line was complete garbage, but they were still 11th in total rushing yards in the entire NFL, and they were 9th in total rushing yards, tied for
all
9th.
All because of Rashad Penny's late season resurgence, though.
It doesn't matter. They were still able to find the holes towards the end there. So,
all right, but I'm just saying, like, you fair point, but they're going to be handing it off to the other guy.
I don't know. I see Kenneth Walker having the higher ability that he's going to surpass both of them.
And another point is, remember the Javonte Williams thing. That's why I stayed away from him, because I was buying all the hype of like, that's why I stayed away from Melvin Gordon. It's because I was buying all the hype. Melvin Gordon's going to lose his job by week 5. It took till like what, week 10, week 11 for Melvin.
It took about half the season, so it's very much a draft and stash sort of situation. So if you're willing to wait it out, I think it's there. But yeah, to each their own. So obviously you are not such a huge fan of Kenneth Walker. So why don't we get into our bad picks here? Who's a guy that you think just landed in a bad situation?
I mean, speaking of crowded running back situations, let's talk about Breece Hall going to the Jets.
I'm so glad you brought up this
pick,
because when I saw it, I was like, I understand he's arguably the best running back in this draft class, but it's like, you have Michael Carter, and he had such a breakout at the end of the last season.
It's so weird.
I'll let you get into your take here, and then I'll add a little bit more.
And my buddy, shout out to Jimmy, my buddy who's a Jets fan, was like, that's a weird pick. And I was like, no, it's a good player. But God, you're right. That fit is weird, man. Because not only it's not just Michael Carter, right? They have Tevin Coleman still. They have guys behind Coleman and Carter that kind of showed up late in the season that were doing okay as Carter was making his breakout that you mentioned. I just like the Jets have like, I don't know, a dozen needs, none of which were running back. Like that was one of the only positions where I was like, you know what? you're set. Like quarterback was a bigger need than running back at that point. Like I do not understand this pick at all. So it's nothing against Breece Hall because let me tell you, as a TCU fan, Breece Hall did very, very well against us, much to my annoyance. Like he is going to be at the very worst a solid, kind of number 2 Jamal Williams type back. That's who he kind of reminds me of a little bit. The Jamal Williams role where he's never going to be quite the guy, but he's always going to be a pretty good piece to add to your offense. But I don't understand it, especially because, like you said, is Michael Carter had a breakout, but it was actually shocking because I looked into his stats. Guess how many times this season they gave Michael Carter the ball? 15 carries or more.
I'm probably going to say 0.
3.
3 times. Okay.
Each time, though, he scored over 10 points in fantasy.
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing. Was he a little disappointing fantasy-wise? 100%, but it wasn't his fault because he never gave him the ball. And so now that you know what you have in him, great. But now you have another guy that's going to vulture it away. So also an interesting stat here is Tevin Coleman's dead cap hit, $560,000. So Tevin Coleman could be a quote unquote surprise cut player here. It would honestly that would be one where I was like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming if he got cut sometime this preseason. But I think I like the player. I just really hate the fit. I think they're just going to vulture into each other's, carries too much. So it's funny you should bring up Joante Williams and Melvin Gordon because maybe this is this year's version of that where they proved me wrong because I was saying the exact same thing about those two this time last year, but they proved me wrong. But I don't know, especially because I don't think the Jets have that great offensive mind on their staff that can make those two running backs work. I think it's going to be we go with one week, we go with the other week, and it's going to be super frustrating for fantasy owners. I am staying away from both Michael Carter and I forgot his name, Breece Hall this year. And again, if you're one of my friends, I am drafting Breece Hall in the first round, so you should go for him before I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you already listed out there, it's just the fact that they drafted him at the top of the second round. It's like I understand that he was probably the best player available at that time. Even that's even arguable at the top of the second round.
Well, and here's because was Kenneth Walker still available at that point?
Well, yeah, Breece Hall was the first running back taken.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I honestly like Kenneth Walker more than Breece Hall, if I'm being honest.
No, like I said, that's you could argue it's just the running back position alone, but then also at the time of the top of the second round, you can argue that they definitely could have taken another quote unquote best player available. But 100%, like you said, they had other needs that they probably could have addressed. They could have rolled with that running back room that they had already on Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman, as mentioned. I think they would have been just fine. So
by the way, this is the name of the other guy I was blanking on. It's Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson's on that roster.
Ty Johnson looked okay at times too. So
I mean, he's not great, but he's a versatile guy.
I think the biggest thing is just I know you said that the offensive mind is not that great there, and yeah, I think Michael Floor still has a lot to learn there. But I think he's trying to employ some things that he obviously learned from Kyle Shanahan, where it's you have a sort of quote unquote lead guy, then you supplement them with some other guys that have a very similar play style. So maybe that's what he's trying to do, where it's maybe Breece Hall and or Michael Carter will be the lead guy, supplement that with the other guy, and then sprinkle in some Ty Johnson a little bit too. So it's but yeah, overall, it's there's a reason why sometimes people avoid running back situations like that because they're all going to eat into each other. You don't know who's going to be the hot hand in a given week. So yeah, does this mean that Michael Carter has now been supplanted, or is still Michael Carter the guy and Breece Hall is just the supplemental guy? It's a very hard situation to read. It's definitely going to be an interesting training camp battle to watch as we get closer to the training camp situation in the late end of the summer. But just, yeah, I was very perplexed by this pick. I think they could have gone in a different direction. And just, yeah, I agree with you here. And I'm glad that you brought it up. That just this situation here, Breece Hall going to the New York Jets is just weird for fantasy purposes, maybe good for real life purposes, but for fantasy purposes, it's a little scary for me.
Stay away. Also, are you telling me a Shanahan protege is too obsessed with running backs? Because that sounds just ridiculous.
I mean, just look at
who's the guy you guys drafted?
Look at Mike McDaniels and Miami Dolphins. He just signed Sonny Michel today. So,
wait, really?
He's obsessed with running backs too.
No, they did not.
He did. He's got Jace Edmonds now, Raheem Mostert, and Sonny Michel. So I mean, yes, that's what it is.
This is not an act, by the way, viewers. I actually did not see that news. Are you kidding me?
I am not. I literally saw it earlier today. He is signed with the Miami Dolphins.
Why? He's not even a goal line back. Okay, that's gonna be a podcast topic.
The
That's
topic for another
insane to
day.
me. That's
Yeah.
crazy. You just signed Chase Edmonds for like 4 years. Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah. It's
Who's your guy?
interesting.
Who's your guy? We're moving on to your guy.
Yeah, so my guy is actually going to be maybe a little bit of a contested pick. I don't know by necessarily by you, but by other folks for sure. And that's Skye Moore, wide receiver out of Western Michigan, drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs in the second round here. So, is this a great landing spot for Moore? Yes. Is Moore going to be a fantasy star in the making? Yes. But will he be dependable in fantasy?
Star. We're going fantasy star already. Okay.
I think so. He's got the potential. Like I said, I'm not saying for sure it's going to happen, but he's got the potential there.
Okay.
But will he be a dependable fantasy option this year? That's where I sort of draw the line. So, I mean, yes, the pairing of Moore in this Chiefs offense, I mean, this is just amazing. This is one of those projected picks that's like, oh my God, if the stars align and Skye Moore were placed on the Kansas City Chiefs, that's just the ultimate landing spot for him. And it ultimately did happen. He was able to slide into the second round. Chiefs didn't have to worry about anything. They just took him where they drafted him there, right? So you just need to take this with a bit of a grain of salt because look at this receiver room that's now in Kansas City. I know they traded Tyreek Hill, but Ted, Juju Smith-Schuster's on the roster.
Well, this
McCole
is why
Hardman's
they traded Tyreek Hill.
Well, I'm just saying that's just like
no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. This is why Tyreek Hill was demanding what, like $30 million a year, and they're like, yeah, no, we can replace it's Moneyball. They're doing Moneyball with football of like
they're going with the committee approach. They're going with the committee approach because as mentioned, they got Juju Smith-Schuster, McCole Hardman, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Corey Coleman, Josh Gordon, maybe not. I don't know. And then they got undrafted free agent Justin Ross. And then obviously you add Skye Moore into that picture. Let's not forget they got tight end Travis Kelce still on the roster. So it's like now they're going for an approach that's just like they're not consistent on just one or two guys anymore. Now it's just whoever is open, that's where Patrick Mahomes is going to pass the ball. So it's like Patrick Mahomes is still like the fantasy quarterback that you want to roster in every single league that you're playing in because he has just a plethora of options now. But because of that, like I said, I don't think it's so much that you're dependent on one guy. Like, I mean, Travis Kelce is probably still the tight end and the playmaking receiver in this offense that you want. But everybody else, just very similar to like we talked about with Michael Carter and Breece Hall, is just they're all going to hurt each other. And it's just like, yeah, there may be a week that Juju Smith-Schuster looks good. Then there's going to be a week that McCole Hardman looks good. Then there may be a week that Skye Moore looks good. And it's just like everybody's going to have their one time where they're going to look good, but nobody's going to be consistent enough where you're like, okay, this is a guy that I'm confident week in and week out he will be a dependable producer for my fantasy roster. I just don't see that. And so, yes, Skye Moore, I think he could develop into that because lots of these guys are signed on temporary deals. I don't know if all these guys are going to stay on the roster. I completely agree with you.
Schuster's deal was a 1-year deal, right?
It's a 1-year deal, very incentive laden too. So it's just like he's not going to make that huge. I think it's like up to $10 million he could possibly get for this year. But if he meets all those incentives, but yeah, like you said, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, it's like I don't know how he's going to be in the Chiefs offense. He looked good with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, but I know he's got Patrick Mahomes here. So, but just once again, it's going to be very inconsistent. Everybody's going to have their day in the sun, but nobody's going to be in there long enough where it's like, all right, I trust this guy week in and week out. So, like I said, he has the talent. He's definitely a very dependable receiver. He's going to carve out a role with the Chiefs in his rookie year. But the way that people are talking about him as like a potential offensive rookie of the year, I don't see that. And definitely, as far as fantasy purposes, he's definitely not a consistent guy that I want. The only way that he'll become a consistent option for me is if any of the other guys go down with injuries. Then he's going to take on more of the role. Then I see more production out of him. But other than that, it's just too crowded. Too many mouths to feed there.
All right, listen up, younglings. For all our younger viewers, listeners out there. Back in our day, there was an offense led by a shorter man. A great man, but a shorter man named Drew Brees. This man, Drew Brees, led possibly the most frustrating offense known to fantasy football in history. He had no idea if Marquise Colson, look him up, by the way, if it was Robert Meacham, if it was Jeremy Shockey. You had no idea. Who else am I forgetting there?
Brandon Cooks for a little bit.
Oh, that was towards the tail end. But yes, Brandon Cooks.
Jimmy Graham made his name with the Saints.
Oh, that's a great one. That's an excellent one because when Jimmy Graham went to Seattle, we were all like, "Oh my god!" And then he didn't do shit there.
It did not happen.
Oh my god! But no, this is very reminiscent of the Saints offense of the mid 2010s. Is Yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. Are they all talented? Yes, but that's kind of the problem. Is I just don't trust any of them, especially fantasy wise, week to week. And I'll honestly tell you who I trust less now. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I am
Oh yeah.
staying the absolute hell away from him because his one thing was like, is he that great of a runner? Like he's a fine runner, but really he's a better receiving back. Well, why would you even throw it to the running back at this point? Like that is a, like you said, loaded receiver group. So yeah, honestly, it's Mahomes, and he's still man, guy. I gotta think about this. We'll probably do ranking shows later this summer. Mahomes will probably be my QB2.
Okay.
Subject to change. And then
TBD.
yeah. But Kelsey is definitely still in my tight end 1 or 2 range. I don't know. I need to look. But yeah, Kelsey and Mahomes are the only 2 people I'm trusting in that offense. Otherwise, I'm just staying completely away from them.
But here's a couple of names that I don't think you want to stay from. You definitely want to keep them on your radar. And those are some sleeper picks here. So, Tad, why don't you give us your sleeper pick who landed in a situation that, maybe not everybody's going to gravitate toward this name, but if you draft this name, he could end up saving your fantasy roster possibly.
So this is a guy that some people may know, some people may not know. It's Calvin Ridley of the Pittsburgh. Oh no, hold on. Let me check my notes. Calvin Austin, excuse me. Calvin Austin the third. There we go. Fun fact, by the way, that is actually a mistake I made trying to do research for this. I was looking at Calvin Ridley the third. I'm like, where are his stats? And I was like, oh, that's yeah. So Calvin Austin,
There you
Calvin
go.
Austin the third. The Steelers' 4th-round pick out of Memphis. I am shocked the guy lasts all the way to the 4th round. I was expecting him to be a first rounder, even though he had some of that talk around him. I was expecting him to be a second, though. So this is a guy that if he went to again the Ravens, or if for whatever reason the Bengals took him, I'd be like, okay, I like that talent, but I don't love that fit. This fit with the Steelers is why I like him so much as a sleeper, because he is a prime candidate to be their go-to slot guy now that they lost a lot of their receivers, namely Juju Smith-Schuster. So I think he'll replace his role as the every down receiver of like, if we need to do a jet sweep, which by the way, offensive coordinator Matt Canada really, really likes to do. We did a breakdown. What was that, last year, 2 years ago?
It was last year, I believe.
It
Yeah.
was last year of Canada's offense, and I think that's what we said is Roethlisberger's adjustment to that offense is going to be a little rough, which it was. But I think that type of play style with like, hey, we have a speedster here, let's use him in as many ways as possible, really opens up his fantasy value. So also, fun fact, he broke off 3 rushing touchdowns his time at Memphis. 2 of them were plus 60 yards. Dude's explosive. He's a fast, explosive guy. I really like him. And here's another thing I like is you have Claypool and Deontay Johnson's still there in Pittsburgh. They'll take the attention away from him. So, and Freiermuth. Don't forget him. So if you have a really athletic linebacker, you're putting him on Freiermuth. And then with this revamped offensive line and I don't know, Trubisky, my boy Pickett, we'll see. It could, I just see, and this is a guy, I'm not saying like, oh, look in the mid rounds for him, but if it's a later round and you're just looking for a flyer to take, I really, really like Calvin Austin as a potential matchup flex option guy going forward. So, like, let's say, you got Calvin Austin going against the, man, the AFC North is actually good now. This is weird. Who sucks in the AFC?
The Texans.
Okay, perfect example. Yeah, if you have Calvin, thank you. How
I
did
feel like
I
that's a
not think of
go-to
the
answer
Texans?
every year.
Jesus Christ. Or the Jaguars now. Oh, we have Trayvon Walker. That's gonna fix things. Yeah, right. But Jaguars also have like 1,000 linebackers now. So but anyway, you go against the Texans. Yeah, I love the Calvin Austin versus Texans matchup. And like that's a flex worthy play in my opinion. So if you're looking for a receiver, let's say you're in a 14-man league, who would be crazy enough to do that? That just sounds insane. And you need some, like, you're desperate for some receiver depth. That's a very good flyer to take in the late rounds, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of a sleeper pick. It's not necessarily that a
Right.
guy that you need
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
sort of draft for sure. Maybe like a late round flyer, exactly like I said, you're closing out your draft. You need a guy to fill out your bench. There, you throw in a guy there, or just a guy that you definitely add to your watch list. That's like, okay, as the season goes along, you're watching his stats, you're seeing how he's performing. It's like, all right, now I want to pick him up a week early before he really hits it off and everybody's clamoring to get him, sort of thing. So, yeah, Calvin Austin III, great addition to that Steelers offense, can definitely be a very good sleeper. Tad, I'm going to go with my sleeper pick here that I think you may be a fan of. Yeah, it's definitely going to your Colts here, and that's the tight end Jelani Woods out of the University of Virginia, drafted by the Indianapolis Colts in, I believe, the 4th round, if I remember correctly. It might have been the 3rd round.
Third round, because we actually took him before Raymond.
That is true. Yeah, I think yeah, it was definitely early in the 3rd round, and then you guys went back and got Bernard Ryman. So yeah,
That's
you are
why
correct there.
if you watch our LAFB draft live stream, they were like, I think it was Jamal was just like, oh my God, Ted, that's a great pick. I was like, I wanted Malik Willis or Raymond. And I was like kind of disappointed. And then we took Raymond and I was like, yes. But no, now like it's a Quiddy Pay thing all over again. I'm like, at the time I didn't really like it. Now I'm like, let's do it, baby.
Well, let me sell you a little bit on Jelani
All
Woods
right,
here.
do it.
So, okay,
Do it.
so let's start with Matt Ryan though. So Matt Ryan has thrown for 30
Please
plus
do.
touchdown Matt Ryan has thrown for 30 plus touchdown passes in 3 seasons in the NFL. Tad, all 3 of those times, he had an established playmaker at the tight end position. Tony Gonzalez in 2012, and then Austin Hooper both in 2016 and 2018. The Colts
That's the
have
stuff.
lacked a playmaker at the tight end position since Eric Ebron's fantastic season
How dare
in
you, sir?
2018. Yes, you could say
Do
Jack
not soil
Doyle, but
Jack Doyle's good name like that. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. He had a couple
He was
fluke
fine.
years. He was not
Fine.
consistent,
Yeah, no, he
anyways.
was.
But just like, and same thing with Mo Alley Cox. He's a physical freak, but just we haven't seen it
Drives me
consistently
nuts.
enough.
All potential, no production.
So hopefully, Jelani Woods doesn't fall into that same trap. I think he can be a physical freak, obviously, because he is a physical freak. I mean, I shouldn't say he can be, he is, and he should be an instant contributor to this Indy offense. 6'7", 253 pounds, ran a 4.61 40-yard dash, and Ted, this is insane. 82-inch wingspan. This guy can, I don't know, reach from one end to the field
Why
to
is
the
he
other.
not
Like,
playing
it's insane.
basketball?
I just amazing to see this. So obviously Michael Pittman Jr. will be the main passing threat in this offense. You also have to throw in rookie Alec Pierce that they took in the 2nd round. I haven't seen enough tape on him, but Tad, I know you're pretty high on him. So we'll see what sort of production he can give. But now you add a guy like Jelani Woods at the tight end position. He could be a mismatch for linebackers. He's got the size, so I think he can overmatch any defender that's going up against him. Like you said, sort of that basketball tactics, which is what made Tony Gonzalez so good in the NFL. Just box him out, jump up, and you got the ball there. Red zone threat, crucial 3rd down conversion type of guy. Like, I mean, this guy is going to be a dangerous threat, especially with the speed too. He could take advantage of you on those seam routes, put him outside. He do a lot of things in this offense, and I think Frank Reich will find ways to get this guy open on the field. Matt Ryan will look his way too because of the size. Like, I mean, it's just insane how much of a physical freak this guy is. Like, I think he's going to get involved for sure. Like I said, just he's going to be a dominating presence. The only thing, like I said, is just I hope he doesn't fall into that trap where it's just all physical attributes, but it doesn't lead to anything on the field. But I don't see that because from what I've seen, he was at the East-West Shrine game. He was definitely able to show his stuff there. From what I've seen in the tape, he's a willing blocker too, so he's definitely going to see the
his
field a lot of the
blocking
time.
ability is pretty good.
So definitely he's going to see the field a lot of the time there. And, with the competition that he has Mo Alley Cox. He has a guy, Ryan Grigson or
Kylan Granson.
Kylan Granson, that's what it was. Ryan Grigson's the GM or something like that, right?
Ryan Grigson's former GM. He
yeah,
was
exactly.
GM
I was like
5 years ago.
Kylan Granson
is our GM now.
No, I know that, but I was just like, Ryan Grigson was a GM at one point.
Ryan
so
Grigson got fired because he was the one that got rid of Manning.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was my bad. But Kylan Granson, that was the name I was trying to think of there. Jack Doyle obviously retired. So, I mean, this is just a good spot where if you're looking for a tight end, you don't get a chance to sort of draft one of those top flight guys. Hey, why don't you take a flyer on Jelani Woods, grab him at the end of your draft? Maybe you supplement him with like Gerald Everett, who just landed with the if you land Gerald Everett, possibly you can sort of couple those 2 guys and sort of do a supplemental piece like that. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of options. Hayden Hurst, who landed in Cincinnati, he'd be a good guy that you could couple with too. So it's just like you have some options there. But just from what I see out of Jelani Woods landing in Indianapolis, I think he could definitely carve out a role and be a difference maker for your fantasy roster.
Okay, you're going to need to time me on this one. Give me 90 seconds from when I start.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, one, go. Okay, so Jelani Woods, I thought was a very interesting pick because I really like him as an athlete, but unfortunately, I do worry a little bit about the technique standpoint. So I just need to see him prove me wrong there, and I really hope he does because exactly like what you said, Matt Ryan loves his athletic tight ends. You look at Austin Hooper. I mean, what did that guy do once he went to Cleveland? Absolutely nothing because Matt Ryan knows how to use his tight ends. So I think that exactly like what you said, this could be a match made in heaven. He could be a rookie breakout. He could be a Pro Bowler. I know that sounds insane, but I really do believe that because worst case scenario, he's just a red zone target. He has 30 catches for 8 touchdowns, and it's like, okay, yeah, he's a big guy. You throw it up there because don't forget, he actually reminds me a lot of Jimmy Graham. He's a bigger guy. He's a stronger guy. Just shove him up there and get it. Hopefully he develops his route running as he goes on. So I really, really love this pick the more I look at it. And as for Mo Alley Cox and Kylie Granson, this is kind of what the Colts do is they just draft super athletic guys. But I really do believe that this is the one to work out because Granson, while I do love him, the size was a concern. The athleticism just reeked of a guy who was good in college, but not good in the pros. I feel totally different about this pick. I absolutely love this pick.
Well, definitely got it under 90 seconds. So that's
Did
good
I
job on
really?
you
Holy
there.
shit.
Yeah.
All right. I thought you gave me some extra time there. Whew.
No,
Wait,
you had
whoa,
good number of time. Is like around 51 is probably where the 90-second mark is. So yeah, you're actually good. You're good. But yeah, those are some of the guys that we definitely wanted to get into. Obviously, we've gotten some good landing spots, some bad landing spots, and obviously some sleeper picks. Yeah, we're definitely going to start easing into some fantasy content for you guys over the course of the off season here. Think of it as like a dimmer switch. We're slowly ramping it up, as the weeks go on, as the months go on. We're easing into it. There's a lot of things that we definitely want to cover for sure. But yeah, so make sure you're always tuned in to what's happening on YouTube as well as our podcast. Follow us at all of our Twitter handles down below. You got my personal handle, I'm Desai23, Tad's a Tad Desai94. You got the show handle, the Desai Guys, and of course, we now have the Instagram page also at the Desai Guys.
Hey, shout out to Murr, by the way. He is making some awesome graphics. So far, we've only been nearly sued just because of one, but everything else has just been fantastic. You were doing a great job there, buddy. So, guys, please give him the appreciation he deserves because he puts in good work here, and the graphics just look fantastic.
Well, and somebody has to post them, so I mean, it's a joint effort.
Yes, it's very hard to write the caption. That's 2 sentences long, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Is this a good hashtag? Is it? Do you put
hey,
NFL?
there's
draft?
a science to that. There's a
Do you
science
capitalize?
to that. Come on.
Do you capitalize the D in draft, or do you leave it lowercase? It's a very tough decision.
Exactly. I agree. I 100% agree with that. So
Especially
make sure you subscribe.
Especially while kids are yelling at you from behind the door. Listen, I'm like, just give me a second.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page here, on the LAFB Network YouTube channel. We have our own individual playlist, so you're always up to date with the latest videos are dropping. And of course, we still got the podcast to subscribe where you're able to listen to your podcast, whether it's on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, right on the LAFB Network website. Wherever you decide to listen to your podcast, just hit that subscribe button. Always be up to date with everything that's happening with the Desai Guys Football Forum. So if you're following, if you're listening, if you're watching, if you're interacting with us on Twitter, I mean, anything and everything, guys, really just can't thank you enough.
And guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. It means a ton. Like Mer said, we had the podcast dropping later this week. And hey, not this week, granted, because I'm kind of having a slight heart aneurysm with how this series is going. But it's been a big couple weeks for Mer's Warriors. It's been a big couple weeks for my Heat. I hate these playoffs so much. We were doing so well. But anyway, that's besides the point. Bottom line is I'm convinced that the Heat and Warriors are going to meet each other in the finals. So convinced, in fact, I'm going to place a bet on it at betonline.ag. So that's the URL. So betonline.ag is where you can find all their awesome odds. And like I said, you can bet your ass I'm going to have that as my finals matchup. So if you guys want to have some fun with us in the finals, tweet us your bets. Let's, have some fun. Let's figure out some other, fun bets and stuff we can do. I already have a bet with my students, by the way. There you go. I'm Desai23, Desai94, and the Desai Guys on Instagram. I already have a bet that if some of my students do well on their tests this upcoming week, I dye my hair. So that might be interesting for the podcast. I don't think I told you about that, actually.
That's news to me.
Yeah. So I might have to dye my hair whatever color they choose. So that'll be interesting. But if you guys want to do a bet like that, clearly I'm down. I was at a pancake house for 24 hours. I might have to dye my hair. I'm willing to do anything for a fun bet. So Bet Online is where we're going to find our odds. So check them out. Tweet at us your odds you want to bet on. we're very down. And guys, as always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to, keep your eye out and hey, activate those alerts because when we push out a new episode, it will tell you. I want to say right away, but sometimes it gets weird. But it will tell you basically the same day. And as always, please support everything LAFB Network. We have some exciting news coming up with that, but I'm not sure what I'm allowed to spoil, so I'm just going to leave it there.